Hey, this is Marcus Buff Bagwell, and I am here with Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, oh my God, I'm the biggest Sergeant Slaughter fan ever. I mean, who isn't? I mean, think about it, brother. You really are, Sarge. Think about it, brother. You're the living GI Joe.
I'm the only living GI Joe.
God dang it.
There is one other living, but it was Refrigerator Perry. He was the second, but he didn't pan out so well. So,
What got Sergeant in this business?
well, I was always a wrestling fan.
Okay.
Ever since I was a little boy. And quick story for you: when my mother and father lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, my sister and I would be put to bed in my mother and father's bed, and every morning I'd wake up, I'd be on the fold-out couch in the living room, and I could never figure out how I went to sleep
get
in
from
my
there?
parents' bed, and I woke up on the fold-out couch with my sister. I could never figure that out. So one time, curiosity got me, and I wasn't really that tired. It was time to go to bed. It was a Saturday night, and I was faking that I was sleeping. So I wanted to see how I ended up. And not that faking got me into professional wrestling.
But it sure did help.
It did hurt. So I was laying there, and all of a sudden I heard this yelling and screaming, and I snuck out of my parents' bedroom, and I saw the back of my father's head, an uncle and a couple of neighbors yelling at the television. And I crawled out there, and I hid underneath a end table, and they were watching professional wrestling. They were yelling at the referee and at the bad guys, and you know the heel, and I snuck back, and I was, you know, I fell asleep, and I woke up on that damn couch again. But every Saturday night, I timed it to where I pretended I was sleeping,
So
and
you
I
could
got to
watch
crawl out
wrestling.
and watch wrestling. So finally, my uncle caught me one Saturday, and he said, "Hey, Bobby, what are you doing there?" My dad said, "Oh, hey," and I was like, "Oh, I did something wrong."
I'm in trouble.
And my dad says, "Come on over. You want to watch wrestling?" He put me on his knee, and from that point on, when I was about 3 years old, I started watching professional wrestling.
Wow, what a great story.
Yeah.
Any chance of knowing who was wrestling?
No.
But still, you're watching pro
I
wrestling with your
remember
father.
a guy by the name of Farmer Marlin.
Farmer
He did a
Marlin.
mule kick.
As a finish?
Yeah, as his finish.
Mule kick.
He would knock the guy down, and then he would stand away for him and get on his hands and knees and throw his feet backwards and hit the guy in the
Double
jaw
kick?
like a drop kick.
Like a double mule kick.
Yeah, and the guy would down and he'd
That's
cover
great.
1, 2, 3. So that was my favorite wrestler because that's the only name I knew. And of
Wow.
course, Horrible Haggerty and Verne Gagne. Those wrestlers came a little bit
Pretty
later.
soon, pretty after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
all
Unbelievable.
I got.
I had a
That's all I
chance
got.
to work with Greg Gagne for a little bit at WCW.
Yeah, I've worked with Greg a few times, and I put him through a Sergeant Slaughter training camp one
Oh,
time.
did you really?
Yeah.
I love it.
And we were wrestling a couple of pretty rough guys, and his father said, "I want you to train Greg. He's such a nice kid." And
Yeah.
so it was just a fun thing.
Who trained you, Sarge?
Verne Gagne. And
Verne Gagne.
Billy
So Verne
Robinson.
did train you.
Yeah, Verne Gagne, Billy Robinson. A friend of mine, we were huge wrestling fans. We'd go down to the Minneapolis auditorium, watch wrestling, and he was a sports writer. And he called me up one day, and I was roofing with my father. I said, "Hey, I've got an assignment tomorrow to go out to this training camp and do a pro wrestling training camp. I want to do a story on it. They want me to do a story. You want to go along?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to. Let me call my dad." My dad said, "Well, what time do you have to leave?" And I said, "About 2, 3 o'clock." He said, "Oh yeah, we'll be all done by then." So I dressed up, went home, showered, got all dressed up. Little did I know it was out in the barn, out in the middle of.
Of course it was independent wrestling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some barn.
Out in the barn. So we pulled up. There's a bunch of cars there, and film crew, and we all went in to watch. And there's hay bales and chickens and ducks and horses and cows.
And a wrestling ring.
At the other end of the barn was a ring. And there's a little light bulb hanging down, and there's guys working out. closer I got it, I said, oh my God, there's 2 or 3 guys I wrestled in high school going through this training camp. And I said, oh, wait a minute, I'm up on the top of a roof at 0400 every morning, and maybe this is the thing I should be doing, since those guys, I beat them. You know,
I beat them then, so why can't I beat them?
I beat them, so why am I up on the roof and they're...
These
so
guys are in here doing something
the
else.
closer I got, I recognized a couple other figures that were, I never wrestled, I played football against. So I watched it, and pretty soon, Vergania said, could we have a volunteer? And of course I looked around, and I'm the only one without a camera, and with no pad, and it was like the old movie, You Talking to Me?
Yeah, you talking to me?
So in I go, sports coat and everything. And he says, no, this is a front face lock. And he puts a front face lock on me, trips me, falls on top of me, got all his weight on me, and I'm like tapping, and I couldn't breathe.
And you don't know Vern.
I never
From nowhere.
From nowhere. So I get up and I'm like gasping for air, and
You're not a little bit hot?
Huh?
Are you a little bit upset?
Well, I was kind of more shocked.
Shocked?
And surprised.
Because you're a big boy, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and so he said, well, here's another hole. And he does something kind of similar to it. And I'm like tapping and tapping. He said, you had enough yet? Yeah. Yeah. And so I got up and, hell, I said, I was getting the hell out of here. So I slid under the bottom rope, and he says, where are you going? Too tough for you? I said, no, it's not too tough. I just don't see any reason to go back in there. You're taking advantage of me. And he goes, taking advantage of you? I said, yeah, you're taking advantage of me. He said, well, you think you could do any better? I said, well, a lot better than I would be if you didn't take advantage of me. He said, well, come on in, we'll see what you got. So he says, get down on all fours. So I still got my sports coat on. So I get down on all fours.
In the coat.
Yeah. So he yells out, hey, Rick, you get on. Coach, I got a bad shoulder. Don't tell me that. Get on him. No, Rick was Rick Flair.
It was Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, yeah. Because I used to wrestle, play football. I started out in Pop Warner football and Little League with Rick. And we grasped it up, we went to high school against each other and all that.
Played ball against each other anyway, right?
Yeah. And so he knew he was not in good hands.
So because he knew, so he was saying the shoulder, but he wasn't hurt.
Yeah,
he was working it.
Yeah. So he was already working.
Of course.
He'd been working a long time.
I was about to say.
He came out of his mother's womb.
I was about to say, brother, he is the best worker. So shoulders hurting. So where does he go from here?
Vern Gagne said, don't give me that, get on him. So Rick, as he gets to get on me in the wrestler position, he whispers in my ear, take it easy on me, Bob.
That's great. Like you're one of the boys.
I
like he gave me the office.
Yeah, he gave me the office.
He gave me the office.
Yeah, so I didn't say anything because I was pissed now.
So now you're all a little bit mad about it.
Yeah, so it says wrestle, and of course I pinned Rick. That didn't go over so well. So now Vern Gagne said, Ken Patera.
Ken Patera.
I do Ken, but I never met him before.
Right.
He just got out of the Olympics.
He's in great shape. Silver medalist of the Olympics. Ken Patera.
Weightlifting. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't think I can pin this guy, but let me see what I can do. So Vern Gagne says,
is your coat still on?
Huh?
Is your coat still on?
Yes, still on. Yeah.
That's great.
So he says, wrestle. And boom, I escape from Ken. So I'm standing over him while he's still on the mat. And that went over like a fart in church,
I bet it did.
So now Billy Robinson is sitting on the top turnbuckle watching all this. And Vern walks over to him and he says, what do you think about this guy, Billy? Billy jumps down, he's got coal black hair, had one eye, glass eye, and he walks around me and calls me every possible name you could think of, and all of them started with a C. And he was trying to intimidate me.
Right.
And so he walks around me, and he says, get down on all fours. So I take my sports coat off this time. This guy, looked pretty rough. So I get down on all fours, and as I do, he takes the back of his, front of his shin and drops it on the back of my ankle. Tries to break my foot from me or whatever he was trying to do. And I just kind of went into this zone. I don't know, I think I've ever been that crazy
Angry.
in my life.
You were, I mean, super mad, right? You're
Because I
angry.
felt, as soon as I felt the pain, the first thing I thought about was my father being on the roof by himself the next morning because I wouldn't be able to get up the ladder.
Right.
So I went into this rage and I went after Billy and we went around and I tried to pull out his good eye and we, as they say, the mud, the blood, the beer, and we tussled for a good probably minute and a half.
Which is a long fight, brother.
And I got the best of him. And I was getting the best of him. And Vergania saw that, so he jumped in and got all the other guys to pull us apart.
Because you and his boys getting ready to get beat up.
So that would be the worst thing for me to get the best of a professional wrestler.
Right.
So I go out, walk out of the barn, and Vern Gagne follows me out with my friend. And he said, "Damn, kid, where'd you learn how to fight like that?" I said, "I don't know. I just kind of went into a place I'd never been before." He said, "Well, you know who that is up there?" I said, "Yeah, I know who that is." And he said, "Well, not too many people get advantage of him. So whatever you're doing now, what's your name?" I said, "Bob." "What's your last name?" "Remus." "Remus? Your father, Rudy?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Rudy Remus is your father?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "He puts the roof on my house." I said, "I know. I helped him put the roof on your house."
I love it.
And he said, "Well, God, give your father a hug and kiss for me. I love him." And he said, "But if you ever want to be a professional wrestler, you should give it some thought."
Give me a call.
And I said, "Well, I'll give it some thought." So then he said, "Get a hold of me. I'm easy to get a hold of. You talk to your dad about it." So I said, "Okay." So I went to walk back in the barn. He said, "Whoa, where are you going?" And I was going to get my sports car.
Right.
I thought I was going back. I said, I'm going back to finish the job, you know. And he goes, no, if you go to training camp, you'll have plenty of Billy to just, he's going to want to be my trainer. So anyway, I went home and told my dad what happened. He goes, "Well, good. I don't want you to be a roof for the rest of your life. Go for it." So Vern told me I couldn't be in that class because there were like 8, 9 weeks already into it. He said it would be fair to me to have to try to catch up. So he said, I got a hold of him in Tempatera. Used to see those guys working out. Cosmo Vasari was in that class. Jim Brunzel, Greg Gagne, Bob Ruggers, a bunch of pretty big names that came out of the business. And so I started training, and I would meet Cosmer over at a gym, and he would get me on the mat and show me amateur moves, and Ken would help me lift weights. And so finally Ken said, "I'm going to put a word in for you, so don't let me down." And
Wow,
so
okay.
I said,
That's
"I
huge.
won't let you down." And then one
Silver
night-
medalist going to put a good word in for
Yeah.
you. Right?
Yeah. So, you know, on the weekends, we always play poker, my wife and I had a bunch of friends, so we would play for a while, and then we'd stop and eat, and then play some. So we decided to stop and have something to eat, so one of my playing poker people said, "Hey, what's going on in your life today, these days?" I said, "I'm going to be a professional wrestler." And my wife was sitting across the table, and she said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I ran into this situation, blah, 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 and I think I'm going to be a professional wrestler." "The hell you are." I said, "The hell I'm not." She said, "The hell you are." I said, "The hell I'm not." And those words stuck in my mind, you know, my body. Because anytime I wanted to quit that training camp, I kept hearing those words, "The hell you are, the hell I'm not."
That's right. And you aren't going to stop for nothing.
I wanted to quit a couple times.
No way you're going to quit now.
They wanted you to quit.
Of course they do. They're trying to make you quit.
They don't want to.
I quit my first night. I was I'm never going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going back.
That's right.
And that's just something, I don't remember why I did, but I went back.
Right.
So,
anyway,
what
that's
year-
what
what
really
year
got
is
me
this?
through it. That's what got me through
what
it.
year would this be, Sergeant?
This was 1972 to
1972,
I
73.
started, my first match was in 73, so
Who was
72 into 73.
Who was your first match?
My first match was Paul Pershman, Buddy Rose.
Was that his?
We went to the training camp together.
Okay, Buddy Rose.
Yeah.
Huge name.
Yeah. We would put the ring up. And
Of course, you set the ring up and worked in it.
referee. We would referee.
To work your way up, right? To work the referee first.
We were the first ones there, last ones to leave.
Right.
I'd wrestle, referee a couple of matches, he'd referee a couple of matches, and they had a main event referee. But
Right.
so we would talk to each other, down the road, back and forth, and we'd always work out with each
Sure.
other. And one day we decided to get to the camp early, and we kind of put this match together, a professional wrestling match.
Okay.
Now, we weren't Smiazar,
No.
We weren't told anything about
No,
it.
just kind of playing around with some
Right.
moves.
So one day, Vern Gagne says, "Well, today we're going to have a professional wrestling match." And Paul, like, we do. And I said, "What do you mean we do?"
Yeah,
I don't want no part of it.
No.
He says, "Yeah, Bob and I, we'll have a match." I said, "Come on, Paul." "Yeah, let's do it." So we have this match. And his last thing I did, he went to give me a turnbuckle. I reversed it, and he hit the turnbuckle and did the Harley race over the top, kind of the Ric Flair,
Over the top rope
over
thing.
the deal, and
But shoot.
yeah, it wasn't a shoot. He worked it.
Oh, it'll work. Okay,
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, we
I
worked the
love
whole
it.
thing. We
Okay.
worked the whole thing. So we get done, and we get, to the center of the ring, and Billy and Vern are standing there. And Vern says, "What do you think about these guys, Billy?" And I heard that before. "What do you think about this guy, Billy?"
Right.
So I knew something not good was going to happen.
Right.
So he said, "I think I can't repeat it."
Right.
And Vern said, hit the road. You guys run until I tell you to come back." And so the whole time we're running, I said, "Paul,
I told you I'm gonna kill you."
So anyway, that was.
Looking back on it, how horrible was it?
Right. It was probably pretty horrible. I would
Was it?
imagine. It wasn't really that bad.
It don't
Paul-
sound that bad. It
No,
sounds
Paul
like you
was
guys did a pretty
Paul
good
was
job.
Paul was a good little worker.
I was about to say he's one of the best. I mean,
he was already Smiazar to the business.
right. So you thought we did pretty good. So
Yeah. And so Chris Taylor got out of the Olympics. He was in our camp, and we had about 60 guys that came, and only 3 of us made it. But, finally, Vern said, "I want you guys to go to Rice Lake, Wisconsin." And we had a match, it was a rookie match, they called it. And we wrestled for 10 minutes, and whoever got the most falls got the victory.
Okay.
Vern hated Paul, so I got 3 victories in one match, and he got 0.
I love it.
That was my first professional match.
First professional match.
Yeah.
So 72, 73.
Yeah.
When's the WWF call?
I headed out to Vancouver, Canada in 1973. And Vern Gagne said, "You made it, you're a professional wrestler." And he darkened us up, and we kind of had that figured out anyway. But he
Right.
finally
But you
told
kind of
us.
told put the pieces together
Put
for
the
you.
pieces together.
Real quick, the reason when that happened to me, same thing. I was locking up, and we were, having to call things, and we're learning on the fly, and it was horrific.
Yeah.
And my day-breaking thing of mine was I walked into the locker room at the Dallas Sportatorium, and the Hills and the Babies were talking, and I said, "Wait a second, y'all can talk before going out?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And
same
so
thing happened.
we had been so horrible calling it on the fly. We'd gotten pretty good at it.
Right.
Still horrible,
Right.
but gotten pretty good at it. It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to talk a little bit, my game went from here to there the very next match. I was pretty damn good. I was working for WCW in 3 months after that. So that it's a big deal when you get smartened up. It's a big deal, and they don't do it a lot anymore. Nowadays they do, but in that day of '70s and '80s, they didn't do it, and it was a good thing they didn't. So
I don't know if I could be in the business now because it's so much to remember.
it's crazy, the memory, and
what do they do when something screws up?
it all falls apart. It all falls apart.
I used to know, like when I was an agent, WWE, there would be times when we'd have an 8-minute match,
Right.
And we'd go up and tell our guys, "You got 3 minutes," and they'd like go into it like shock.
Right.
3 minutes? How are we gonna fit all this in? I said, "You don't fit it in. You just put the 3 minutes in."
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
don't try to get 8 minutes in a 3-minute match.
Right.
You'll be going so damn fast you won't know.
There's no way to do it. No way.
So anyway, I don't know. I could, especially when we're doing promos now.
But once he smartens you up, of course, it helped tremendously, right? I mean,
Yeah,
did you really do it? Was it like a brain?
Once I knew legitimately what was going on,
You were like,
it was so much fun.
absolutely.
It
So
made it so much fun. It wasn't work anymore.
Right.
It was the last day I ever worked, a day in my life. People say, "Well, you're gonna retire." I said, "From what?"
right, yeah,
I've been retired since 1970.
yeah. I never was hired.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun. So the WWF, what year did you sign with them? How's that?
Well,
happen?
I finally, I left, I have to tell you a quick story. I go out to Vancouver, Canada, and as a rib on the rookie, Gene Kiniski, he tells, "Hey, Jags said you're coming out, you're pretty damn good hand, and here's a place you should stay." And I said, "Okay," so I went out there by myself with my father in a roofing truck. And they put me up in this flea bag hotel, and I was there a week before I had to even wrestle. And so my dad never been away from my mother before, and he kind of like, "You mind if I go back home?" I said, "No." So I drive to the Seattle airport. Back then, you could go right up to the plane and wave goodbye. And so off he goes, and there I am all by myself in a pickup truck. And so I'm there for a week, having drinks, having a good time, and go down to the bar, cute little red-headed bartender there, and so she said, "What are you doing in town?" And I said, "I'm here to be a professional wrestler." She says, "Oh, my family and I were wrestling fans." I said, "Oh, good. Do you have a newspaper here?" And every time I look in the newspaper, I was trying to find the ad for the wrestling match to see my name. So
You finally find it right in the corner way down small.
So those matches were on Mondays.
Right.
So I'm there like Monday before. So every day I'd say, "Is there a paper?" Finally, I come down. It's a Thursday. She said, "There's an ad in the paper. There's an ad in the paper for wrestling." So I opened it up. I think it was like that big, and it had all the names. And I went down and I didn't see my name. And then I saw at the bottom, plus one other match.
And you were plus
One other match. I said, "Can I have this?" She said, "Yeah." So I went upstairs, I tore it out, put it on a piece of paper, got an envelope, a stamp, and I sent it to my dad, and I put a big arrow. I made it. One other match, plus one other match.
I like it. Plus one other. That's perfect.
So now, I'm gonna go have this match, and I told the lady tomorrow, I said, "Once I have this match, I'm gonna be going, away. I
Right.
won't be seeing you much anymore." So, okay, that's because I said, "I wanna live in the States, not Canada."
Right.
And she said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Mike, I have to ask you, because you don't seem, this type of a guy." She said, "Do you know where you're at?" And I said, "Yeah, Vancouver." She said, "No, you know this, where you're at." I said, "Yeah, in a bar." This is a gay bar.
You're
So
kidding me.
they really told me to stay at this place, and I'm going down every night having drinks in a gay bar. Well, I have nothing against some of my best friends.
Absolutely, but you
But I
didn't know.
didn't know. I didn't know. So she said, "Don't you notice all so many guys in here? They're all coming up and
Talking to you?
And I said, "No." And she made me laugh. She said, "They've been trying to push your stool in for a week."
Oh my God,
I don't know if
that's
you can
great.
do better than that.
That absolutely
So
you
that
can.
was the joke. So I go to the matches that night, 3 hours early, and I walk in. There's this guy sitting on a bench, tanned up, smoking a cigarette, beautiful suit on. And he looks up at me. He's reading the book, and he sees me, and he closes the book, puts it on the bench, takes the cigarette, puts it out, comes walking over to me, and he said, "I'm Jack Briscoe, NWA World Heavyweight Champion." I said, "Yes, you are."
Yes, you are.
And I was, like set back.
Take your breath, of course.
So I went to tell him my name. I said, "My name's Bob. I know who you are. You know who I am?" He said, "Anybody beat up Billy Robinson, I need to know who they are."
The word got out.
Like that to me.
Shooter.
I didn't know what that meant.
You know what it
I
meant,
had no
right?
idea what that meant.
But you were a shooter from that point on, huh?
He said, "Are you here for a while?" I said, "My first night." He said, "Well, I'm here for 2 weeks. Would you mind if I rode with you?" I said, "Well, I've got an old pickup truck." He said, "That's even better." He said, "You got some country music in the pickup truck?" I said, "I'll find some." So my first 2 weeks in the business, I rode around with Jack Briscoe. And my first character was beautiful.
With Jack Briscoe.
With Jack Briscoe, the world
There you
heavyweight
go.
champion.
The world champion.
And my first character was beautiful Bobby Remus. I had long blonde hair. Superstar Billy Graham was my hero. I had tie-dye, different colored outfits on. And after we...
This was your first outfits character
Right,
and stuff?
right.
And it was
So,
beautiful,
beautiful Bobby Remus.
beautiful Bobby Remus.
So we get done and I take Jack to the airport. And he said, "It's been an honor to meet you." He said, "I see nothing but success for you, but get rid of the beautiful Bobby." He said, "That's not you." He said, "You're playing somebody, you're playing yourself." He said, "You need to find a character for yourself."
Find something else.
And that's how I developed Sarge.
Where did Sarge come from?
Sarge came from, I had to, I got into the business pretty good, and then I had to get out for a while. My mother got sick, she got cancer. So my dad called me, said, "You gotta come home and take care of the business, I gotta be with your mom." I said, "By all means." So finally I was doing some things, and Virginia said to me, "Would you like to go to Hawaii for 6 weeks? Ed Francis is having a tour and he needs a masked man." I said, "Well, I don't have any mask on." He said, "Well, I'll get you some masks." I said, "But I don't think I can go, I've got to run my dad's business."
Right.
He says, "Okay, that's fine." So I go home, tell my mother and father about it at dinner, and my mother said, "Bobby, I'm not dying tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got a chance to go to Hawaii for 6 weeks.
Go.
Go,
God,
So-
you got your mother's blessing, so that's wonderful.
So she made me some masks and some robes, and I kind of looked like Darth Vader a little bit.
Right.
And I wondered.
So you're searching for your gimmick. You're searching for a gimmick for a character for yourself.
Right, right.
Right.
The sergeant. So off I go to Hawaii, and my wife comes in the last 2 weeks that I'm down there. And I wrestled Rick Martel almost every night, so that was a blessing.
Yes.
Just a great knowledge thing. And so I get back, and Vern Gagne says, "What's this I hear you're the greatest masked man of all time?" I said, "Well, I know about that." He said, "Well, if Ed Francis says you're the greatest, you have to be."
Right.
I said, "Well, thank you." He said, "I'm having a little problem with my guy, Don Jardine, and he's the Super Destroyer, and I was wondering if you would take his place." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can do that."
Do that.
So, "Well, I've got an airplane. It's 8 passengers. If I can get you home every night, could you do it?" So I talked to my dad. So my dad said, "Yeah, as long as you get the crew started and get back every night, you go ahead." So Vern said, "We don't wrestle every night. We only like 2 nights, 3 nights a week." So off I went as Super Destroyer Mark II. And Lord Alfred Hayes was my manager. But I didn't know the politics of
Right,
business.
right.
And so Don Jardine was kind of like a real Steve Austin.
Right.
He fought the law, and he always won,
Right.
But Don Jardine fought for the boys.
Right.
And he would go to Vern Gagne and say, you didn't pay that guy enough, or, you know, things like that. So when I came in, they fired him, and I walk in, everybody's like, who's this guy, you know?
Right. Who's this guy? Who's this big man?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, once I showed him I could do the job, you know, that wasn't a problem. But then finally, I was out roofing with my father. It started pouring out rain. So he said, go on home. No sense doing anything today. So I go home, flip on the TV. Back then we didn't have remotes. So I just pull the knob.
Yeah.
pull the knob, and the first thing I hear is the Marine Corps hymn. And I look down, and in black and white is a movie called The D.I. with Jack Webb. And I went, oh my God. And I sat back and I watched that whole movie. And because it was made for television, it was actually a movie, and then they put it on television, you couldn't say any bad words.
No.
No any swearing,
Right.
whatever they call it. And so I got to watch. I said, what a great character for a hero in professional wrestling, a drill instructor.
Tremendous.
The Marine Corps, you know.
Sure.
So,
You get to wear the camouflage, so you're thinking all this stuff.
Right. So as soon as the movie's over, I jump in my pickup truck downtown. I go to an Army Navy surplus store and pick up a campaign cover, a whistle, some aviator glasses. I got a cigar and a swagger stick. And my wife comes home from work, and I dressed up.
You got it on.
I had it on. Didn't have the name yet.
No.
I had Bob Slaughter. I always liked the name Bob Slaughter. Slaughter, I like the name Slaughter.
Where did they just from slaughtering somebody? Just that was the name you did like.
Yeah.
So that was part of the name you kept.
After Jack told me to think of another character, I was thinking.
You started thinking, I like that.
So my wife said, "What are you
What are you
Halloween?
doing?
Where
are you going?"
I said, "No, this is a new character," and I started like doing the character for her. She said, I don't know. So next day, my dad calls, 0400, stay home, pouring out rain yet. So I said, well, I'm going to go down to the wrestling office, for a guy in his office. I go down, and he's not in. So I see Wally Carbo. And he said, hey, Bob, how's your mom? I said, good. What's going on? I said, I got this new character I think I want to show her. He said, well, show it to me. So I show it to him. He goes, you know, we've had G.I. Joes, and we've had this guy, and the Army guys, and the Navy, and the Air Force, and it just, you know, it doesn't really
work or whatever, right?
I said, okay. So I dejected, I go to leave, and elevator opens up, and there's Vern Geiger. He said, hey, Bob, how's it going? How's your dad? How's your mom doing? I said, oh, she's doing great. You know, Dad's fine. Well, what are you doing here? I said, well, I had this new idea for a character, and I showed it to Wally. He didn't think it was too good. He said, well, don't always believe what Wally has to say. Come on in.
Let me see it.
Yeah, so I sit and wait for him to get all his calls, you know, that he had waiting. Right. So finally he says, okay, show me this character. So I put everything on, and I start doing it for him. And he jumps up from behind his desk, takes my campaign cover off, puts it on, puts my glasses on, takes my swagger stick, and starts doing it for me, to me.
Better than you can do at this stage.
He's doing the drill instructor to me. He said, I hated my drill instructor. He was in the Marine Corps.
So
I hated him.
It ignited
So
something
he was pretending to be his drill instructor.
That's great.
He said, I love that. One of the calls I just had was from Harley Race. He needs a new heel, and you'd be perfect. Go on down there. I said, well, I can't. Really, I'm still helping my dad with his business. He said, well, when you can, you tell me, I'll call her. So finally, my mother passed on. And so he calls Harley. I go down. I went in and did a promo. He said, well, let's see your promo. So Harley and Bob Geigel, Pat O'Connor were the three guys there. And so I'm doing this promo, and I see, Harley was in the military. He smoked like this.
He did. I remember that.
And he had a big callus where the flame
would burn him.
So he walks over to me and he goes, kid, I like the character. I said, oh, thank you.
It's a huge compliment from Harley
He points
Race.
over at Geigel and O'Connor. He goes, I want to be married to this guy. And I didn't know what that meant. I went, wait a minute. You know,
Well,
he
I'm
said,
straight.
No, that means you and I are going to wrestle each other every night. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, because Harley Race taught me everything about this business.
So Harley Race is
Harley
your
Race.
guy. That's
Yeah.
who you talk about when you make a $10,000 paycheck or
Oh, yeah.
anything like that.
Anytime
You
I
think
put my
about
head on the pillow, I thank Harley Race, because
I didn't
he was
know
just
that.
one of them, you know.
But
Other
still,
people
Harley
gave me
was the main
opportunities.
one, though. I mean, right?
Other
He was
people
the-
gave me opportunities, but Harley showed me. And Jack Briscoe told me
Right. But Harley showed you.
me in
Showed
the
you.
ring, because I wrestled him every night. You know, we one time we wrestled in St. Joe, Missouri, 1 hour
Wrestled
to
there.
a draw. We went 6 days, 1 hour to a draw. We went back to St. Joe to start all over. We did 90 minutes to a draw. Then we went back and did 2 hours to a draw.
And the people
in
crazy.
3 weeks we did,
And these people stayed with it.
and they stayed with it.
Isn't that
Harley
amazing,
taught
the
me how to
difference?
do it. And
Right.
he taught, he slow it down, kid, slow it down, slow it down. All those little things that I learned from Harley.
Right.
And
then when to
finally,
come?
The last time the 4th time we went to, we had a no time limit. And he said, don't worry, kid, we won't. So we went about 35 minutes, and he said, you call. I said, what? He said, you call the match now. I've been doing all the work, now you call the match. And that's how I learned the
That
business.
was a big step there. Did you take the match over?
Oh, yeah.
Was it successful?
Yeah. And he turned
Harley
around,
Race.
He said, Jack was right about you.
Wow.
Jack was
Harley Race's blessing is a big one, bro. That's
What can
huge.
you do? What can you do?
I mean, nothing, bro.
And then, of course, I had to stop the business and got hurt my back.
What year would you hurt your back?
I think that was in probably 78, 77. And Pat Patterson was going to New York. In fact, it was 1979
Okay.
is when it was, 1979. Got my dates mixed up there. And I said to Pat, when you go to New York, would you give Vince McMahon these photos? It was of Sergeant Slaughter from Kansas City. And he said, Matthew, I never saw these. My nickname was Matthew, but
Right.
about another long story. But so he says, oh, I never saw this character. I always saw you as Super Destroyer, R2. So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Vince McMahon Sr. Yeah, Pat Patterson showed me some pictures, interesting character. I was wondering if maybe you'd come up and do a promo for me. So, same thing. I go there, go through 3, hours of tapings, and he finally said, I want you to go do a promo with my son. I said, well, which one is he? He said, he's the one with the fancy hairdo and got all the muscles. And, he was talking about Vince.
Right. Vince Jr.
So finally, it's time for us to do the promo. And Vince McMahon Sr. says, "Is there anything that you could you want me to do to help your entrance?" And I said, "Yeah." So I went in my bag and I gave him a cassette tape. And he said, "What do you want me to do with that?" I said, "Can you play that?" He said, "What is it?" I said, "It's the Marine Corps hymn." He said, "You want me to play the Marine Corps hymn when you go out?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Never thought about music before." He said, "I'll go see." So he went, came back. He said, "Yeah, the guys in the truck said they can put it across the loudspeaker." So
I got chill bumps.
getting ready, yeah. Gives me chill bumps every time I think about it. So getting ready for me to go out. They had one more match, the dark match before, to make sure everybody would stay there. So he says, when your music plays, go on out. So Vince Sr. used to have like 4 quarters, nervously. So he's like waiting for the music to start. As soon as the music starts, I go to leave, and he stops quarters, and he stops me just like you just did.
Right.
And he's listening to the crowd, the reaction, because there was never music before.
Go
And
kid.
it got kind of like quiet. And he shoved me through the curtain. And I
love
walked
it.
out and I blow my whistle. I got a cigar and I'm
And I mean,
yelling at people, calling them maggots, telling them to stand up and salute me. You're a
instant,
puke. You're a
instant
slime.
heel.
And by the time I got to Vince Jr., they were coming over the railings. They,
Sure,
of
of course.
To kill me. They didn't know who I was.
No.
So, of course, he goes into his character and he goes, "Well, what do we got here?" And I went right up to him in his face and I
Yeah.
went, "Shut your old puke. Who gave you permission to speak?" And he went along with it, you know.
Right. Sold it.
So I'm walking around, put your chest out, and, you know, stand at attention, put those feet together, and he's like going along with it, loving it.
Wow.
And I do this promo, and I went to finish it. And as I'm walking off, he says, "Well, maybe we'll be seeing some more of this Sergeant Slaughter."
You sure
And
will.
I had the cigar, and I thought, well, I'm going to put an exclamation point on this one. So I took a big drag, and I blew it in his face, and he started turning colors, purple and yellow and green and red, and he was shaking, and I didn't realize he hated smoke.
He hated smoke.
But he hates smoke.
I didn't know
You
that.
can't even be around him. You know, he'll fire you or
Oh
find you.
my God.
Even though-
So anybody that knows this story knows that this is something.
Yeah,
I didn't know Vince
don't
that
do
well,
that.
so that
Don't
was
do
the
that to you.
biggest no-no ever.
Right.
And you
So-
do the biggest no-no ever
and
to your future
I
boss.
flew in his face, and I said, "You will be seeing me, maggot." And I walked off. So I get back in the dressing room, and of course, anybody that was still there, they're all like, "That poor guy, he lost his job."
Yeah, he just got fired.
Before he even got
He has no
started,
idea.
you know, he had no idea
What he just did.
So I'm taking off my combat boots, and the dark match goes in, and all of a sudden I hear these quarters. And I'm down taking my combat boot off, and I see these loafers walking around my chair. And finally they stop in front of me, and I look up, and he's like those quarters, and he's shaking his head. Finally, he gives me one of these. Doesn't say a word. Follow me. So quarters are going. I follow him into this back room. Walks around me. I got one combat boot under my arm and one on my foot, and I'm waiting to be fired, you know.
Right.
He finally stops in my face and he goes, "That's the greatest character I've ever seen in this business. I've never seen a villain like that before. Even my son hates you. You need to start tomorrow." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Well, I can't. I'm still wrestling." Kind of up in
Oh, yes,
Minnesota.
you can, he said.
"Don't worry about it. I'll
Forget
take
it,
care
kid.
of it. You need to be here." So that's how I got my moving to New York. And,
Wow.
yeah.
What a great story, Sarge. That's fantastic, man. I mean, when all's said and done, Sarge, how many years would you have, counting him right now, up to date, how many years have you been doing this?
51. Yeah.
51 years.
Yeah. Well, it might be even more. I started in 72, professionally 73, so I'd be 51.
So 51 years.
53,
Well,
52.
well, that's right, so 52 years. 52 years, brother.
Yeah.
And would you do anything different?
No, I wouldn't do anything different, because you can't look back.
No.
Some of the things I did, you know, I should have stayed for WrestleMania 1, but I got the call from Hasbro when I did the I came back from Charlotte. Vince McMahon Sr. said, "I want you to leave." And I said, "Oh, did I do something wrong?" He said, "No, you're doing everything right. I just don't want you to be overexposed your first time." So there's an opening in Charlotte if you want to go down there. I said, "Yeah, I'll go down." So I went down there, became the U.S. champion, had great matches with Ricky Steamboat, Wahoo, and all those great workers
Oh
down
my
there.
God, every person, right.
And so, because the world champion was from the NWA in the Charlotte area, he was always gone. So the U.S. champion was basically the world champion there.
Right.
So I had 2 runs of that, and finally it was time to leave.
Right.
So I went back up to New York, and first night I was in, we did the 3 tapes. I was still the big heel. Vince Sr. said, "You got to come out have a drink and some dinner.
Right.
I'm so glad you're back. And so we have dinner. We sit at the bar. Pat Patterson's there, and Vince Jr. and a couple other guys, Artie Skolin. And so we're all sitting around. God, it's good to have you back, Sergeant. Mr. McMahon Sr. never called me Bob or Sergeant Slaughter. He always called me Sergeant. He says, Sergeant, it's so good to have you back. So
I love it.
You're the greatest villain of all time in this business. And I was getting all the pats on the back. And I said, well, Mr. McMahon, if you think I'm such a great villain, you ought to see me as a hero. And he went, what? Sergeant Slaughter is a hero?
Hero?
He said, no, you can never be a hero. No, there's no way you can be a hero. Well, what do you got in mind? I said, well, I've been looking at the situation over, and you got the Iron Sheik here from Iran.
What a great
You
angle.
got the United States Marine Corps. You know, we never got to punch Ayatollah in the nose for all that he did.
All of it.
I went through the whole thing, the Black Hawks going
And
down.
he was
there.
instantly sold. How could he not be?
All the Marines at the embassy. I went to.
You went through all of it. Were you ready for this? You wanted it. You must have wanted.
I wanted it.
Okay,
yeah.
you want. So you've
Yeah.
researched. You got.
I
So you were
researched.
ready.
Oh, yeah.
You were
I
ready to
was
tell
ready.
this.
So, he almost hypnotized.
I'm about to say, is he
He
mesmerized?
was almost hypnotized.
I mean,
And he finally snapped out of it. He goes, oh, you almost had me there, Sergeant. You almost had me there. No, you could never. That might work for a couple of weeks or a month or two, but
He had no
you'll
idea.
ruin your character as the villain.
Right.
And I looked over his shoulder, and his son, who's taking over the company, he's going.
so you just go ahead and tease the senior.
Yeah.
Yes,
Senior
sir.
turns
Okay.
around and says, Vinny, don't you turn the sergeant into a
He
hero.
knew it. He knew it.
Don't do it.
It's wrong.
You'll regret
It's
it.
wrong.
And so
But Buddy
the
was
next
it,
time
right?
we do TV, 3 weeks later, I go out as the villain. First hour, second hour I go as the villain. Third hour I'm not scheduled, so I'm taking my stuff off.
Don't take it off yet.
Iron Sheik is going to do a match with Eddie Gilbert. They're going to carry him out. So Vince Jr. comes in. He says, "Are you ready, sir? You ready?" I said, "More ready. What do you got?" He said, "What you talked to my dad about a couple weeks ago."
I'm ready to do it.
He said, "I want to do it." I said, "Okay. When do you want to do it? Next 3 weeks?" He goes,
Now.
"Do it right now." I said, "Now?" He goes, "In 5 minutes. I'm going to go tell the truck. They're the only ones that are going to know, except you and me. Nobody's going to know. Not Blassie, who was Ayatollah Blassie.
Nobody.
Not the Iron Sheik. Not Bruno. Not Pat, who's doing the commentary. Only you, I, and everybody, you know. He said, element of surprise. What the element of surprise? He said, get ready as soon as you're ready. We're going. So I put my stuff back on, and I can't find my campaign cover. You know, one of the Marine boys or whatever brought it back and put it somewhere, and I can't, and we're ready to go. So I grabbed one of my baseball caps that had the Marine Corps, you know,
Still
letter
perfect.
fame on.
It
So
might have been good. Might have been good, a little
might
different.
have been better.
That's
So,
right.
the time comes, and they're trying to get Eddie out of the ring because the Sheik beat him up so bad, and he keeps knocking him off the gurney and this and that, and they hit the Marine Corps him. And the place kind of went like dead.
What's going on?
Like, what's
Why's the bad guy coming out
And I
here?
walked out, and I'm just standing there looking, and they all went, yeah, the Marines are coming. The Marines are coming.
USA. Oh my
USA.
God.
Of
course.
And I look at Sheik, and he's like, and Fred Blassie, I can read their lips. They're going, wrong music, wrong music. They're playing the wrong music. You know? Yeah, I don't think he had music.
Right.
So they're like, they don't know what's going on. So off we go. We meet each other halfway to there, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
We don't have any blows. We just say a few bad words to each other. I get up, make sure Eddie's okay. And right before Vince left, he said, I want you to give me your best patent promo. Now, you know what that's like. You have ad lib, because
Right.
we didn't have
Sure.
writers back
Sure.
then. So I'm thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? So I just grabbed the microphone and I said, Iron Sheik, I declare war on you. And
Right.
people are, yeah, USA. I said, there's one thing I've done since I was a young boy in school. I did it in the Cub Scouts, I did it in the Boy Scouts, I did it in the Marine Corps, and I'm doing it right now. And I put my hand on my heart and started doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. And those people
stood.
Marcus, they jumped up on their chairs, got their lighters going.
You're saying they're taking the hats off.
To the Republic. I mean, it was just like, and it was the most incredible turnaround because just an hour,
What a switch.
an hour before that, or even less than 10 minutes before that,
Yeah.
I was the worst.
Vicious heel.
I hated.
That's the biggest turn that's ever happened in the history of wrestling.
So,
That successfully
lo and
turned.
behold, very successful. Next time I come to TV, there's like 8 bags of canvas bags of mail, fan mail, and I couldn't go anywhere. Everywhere I went, people were like glomming me, wanting autographs, getting pictures, and lo and behold, Hasbro calls. Hey, we've been watching your character. We want to go in this new direction of having a real live character. In all our years, we've never had. It's always voiceovers.
Right.
If you're interested. Sure, I'm interested. So I
Right.
go down, I have the whole, that's another podcast, but I
Sure.
go have the meeting with them, I come back and I can't wait to see Vince, because I want to tell him that we're gonna do this thing.
Right.
And he, pal, thanks for going out of your way and doing all that, but I can't let you do it. And I said, what do you mean? Sergeant Slaughter, G.I. Joe.
Right. Hasbro.
Yeah, Hasbro, he said, I just signed the contract with LG and that would be a conflict of interest, but thanks for, and he walked away. I said, wait a minute. So I hounded
Hound him, stayed on him.
him. And WrestleMania, we're working at WrestleMania. It's supposed to be Hogan and I against Piper and Orndorff.
Right.
And so we hadn't announced it or anything, but that's the direction they were going.
Right.
And so I kept on, and he kept saying, I'm sorry, can't do it, can't do it, it's a conflict of interest. Now, if you want to go, go, but don't talk to me anymore about it.
Right.
Trying to get me to get away from it. But answer my calls about it. I gave him my notice, no, not accepting your notice, you're staying here, and I didn't know what he had in mind. So I'm at home having dinner with my family, and my wife said, what is wrong with you? You're not being the same.
Right.
I told her story. She said, well, Bob, you can always be a wrestler. You can't always be the first living G.I. Joe.
Right.
You can't be the first living G.I. Joe
No.
just overnight. And I said, that's why you get the big bucks, honey. So the next day I called Vince, told him I was leaving, and all the shit hit the fan.
I bet it did.
And so I had to leave, and I left. As you said, these are things that you do that
Things you
you
do
should have
to,
changed.
would you have done,
Yeah,
so you would have stayed for the first
I
Mania?
would have liked to have been in all 6 WrestleManias.
Sure.
But I'm with G.I. Joe. And
Right.
AWA let me promote G.I. Joe, so I went there, and I was the first independent, real guy out on the independent circuit that brought a name, brought people to the matches.
Right.
We'd have people, 100 long.
Right.
I was making more money doing that
Sure.
than I was WWE.
52 years of being the best G.I. Joe on the face of the planet, brother.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story, and it's one that I'm so glad you shared with me, brother.
We're
Having
still
fun.
doing it. I'm still under contract.
Look, brother, you still are doing
We
it.
got two characters came out this year. Not sure when this is airing, but then we got 2 more coming out next year.
Still with them.
So,
So thankful, man.
Who knows?
So proud to do this for you. I've always been a huge fan, Sergeant
Yeah.
Slaughter.
Yeah.
And the story you just told with Ric Flair and all that, it's a
Yeah.
great story with Vern training you, and just really, really great story, and one I didn't know.
well,
By no
I
means.
knew of you. I followed your character, and you came into the WWE. I don't think it was the WWE yet.
WWF, yeah, but at the
And
very end of
I
it,
was one of the
you're one of the agents, I
agents,
think.
and they didn't give you a fair shake. And
They didn't.
I think you stood your ground because they wanted you to do some crazy stuff, and you stood your ground, and
Yeah,
you took off and you left. And That's another thing we just talked about.
Yes.
You can't look back.
No, you
Here
can't.
you are.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Sarge.
My pleasure.
I love you,
God
buddy.
bless.
Yes.
Happy
Sergeant
holidays.
Slaughter.
All right.
The
Yo,
best.
Joe.